I think it's important for every leader to understand how they show up in times of stress, because we think we always show up as the sheep, but sometimes we show up as the wolf and we don't really understand it. And so what this assessment does is, and if you don't understand that, you think you're showing up in one way and you're showing up in a very different way.
Yeah, you just hit me with that one. Like, I need a minute to process everything you just said.
But it's a super powerful assessment, and I encourage every leader to do it.
You are listening to the Global CTE Podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisholm.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE Podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisholm. This is the place where I interview the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, and the innovators. Today is no different. I have my good friend and fraternity brother, yo to the noops, Dr. In Buchanan. Yes, sir. Now, let me tell you about Dr. In. Dr. In is an accomplished education leader, executive coach, and author with nearly 3 decades of experience in transforming leadership and educational equity. He has served as an assistant superintendent and worked in both public and charter school environments, giving him a unique perspective on education leadership. As the founder and CEO of NIA Education Group, Dr. In is dedicated to empowering leaders through strategic coaching and professional development. He is also the author of King, the 4-part leadership framework for Black men. It's a powerful guide to navigating leadership and personal growth. His work centers on fostering excellence, equity, and empowerment, particularly with the CTE space. Dr. Buchanan, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Greetings, good sir, my good brother. How are we today? How you feeling?
I'm doing well. I just want to represent and let everybody know I'm repping the King platform.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, right there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for sending this to me in advance of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the show, man. You're one of my favorite leaders, coaches, and consultants in the education space. I follow everything you're doing on LinkedIn, all the empowering work that you're doing across education, across this country. So before we get into all of that, man, tell me, how'd you get started? How'd you get here? What's the origin story?
Yeah, interesting, because when I think about it, especially for this conversation, I think it really all starts with inroads. And so for those of us who don't know, Inroads was, especially in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, was a really strong force in the Black and brown community, because what Inroads did is tapped talented Black and brown leaders, young folks, to cultivate them and expose them to positions and to careers in engineering, mathematics, and some of the other disciplines. And so that was really the crux that really got me to even think about what I was going to do with my life. Okay. And so I got in Inroads at about 15, 16 years old. And they said, okay, you're a smart Black dude. We want you to go to college to major in engineering. Majored in engineering at Mizzou, was blessed. 3 of my friends and I all got full academic scholarships to Mizzou. Wow. So I went to Mizzou on a full engineering scholarship and completed a BS degree in industrial engineering. All of that time, I was working for Procter & Gamble every summer. At some point, I had a pivot. I did walk away with the industrial engineering degree, but at some point, something tapped me on the shoulder and said, there's something different for you. And so I decided to be an educator. And so I taught mathematics at the high school level in North St. Louis County, 5 years from algebra through calculus at a high school called McClure High School. I was a principal in the St. Louis region for 11 years. My last 9-to-5 role was chief academic officer or assistant superintendent over curriculum and instruction. And that work really helped me commit more to this CTE thing and to ensuring that kids have pathway options. For the last 3.5, 4 years, I've been CEO of my own organization called NIA Education Group, and we help leaders and teams become their best leadership selves. And that's really my story, man. I'm proud. My grandson Kingston is 2 months and a day old, so I'm proud about that. I've been doing this work for a long time, so I'm just excited to have this conversation with you today.
Man, thank you for sharing that story. And like we go back quite some ways, but I didn't know about the industrial engineering And that part, taking it back to Inroads, I was also in Inroads in the high school component, and that was a very helpful organization, which I think is a big part of the conversation I wanted to have with you is around at coaching to the next level, right? And Inroads was a version of that, like equipping us with the tools that we needed to show up as the best version of ourselves. What are you seeing as some trends in leadership right now in education that could be helpful to help people move forward?
Yeah, I think I look at leadership in two kind of big buckets. Mm-hmm. One really is the leadership competencies. So, do you know how to manage change? Do you know how to help people make decisions? Do you know how to lead teams? Do you know how to have difficult conversations? Do you understand strategic planning? All of those things. So that's one bucket. But I think the place where people are really starting to focus more on is that adaptive bucket, that affective bucket, because that speaks to the beliefs, the attitudes, the behaviors, and so many issues now that we're having in education and in the workspace in general is more the affective challenges, the stressors, difficulties, the challenges. So it really is more about the affective and the adaptive stuff versus the technical stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I coach around 30 leaders across the country from all different stripes, all different genders, different racial backgrounds, different age groups. Mm-hmm. And most of my work really is around helping people solve adaptive challenges. And so I think that's a big deal. That's what we're starting to see more. And you have to think post-COVID and then now presently in this political climate, so many people have so much stress that they need to try to balance everything that they have going on and still come to work and do a great job.
That's well. So I definitely want to get into impact of the current political landscape and how that's changing things in education. But since you just brought it up, adaptive, can you give us a couple of strategies? Give me something tactical to work on, like for a leader who may be struggling with that, or someone who's looking to try to develop their leaders in their district.
Yep. So I think there are a couple of things you can do. I think one very practical thing. So there's this assessment called the Saboteur assessment. And what the Saboteur assessment does is it highlights the top 9 ways that Sylvester is his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
All of us take all of these different types of assessments, whether it's the DISC assessment, the strengths finders, all of these other assessments which speak to what I call the resonant parts of who we are. Yeah. But there's a dissonant part of who we are as well. And that gets activated anytime we encounter stress. And so the brain is designed to protect us from hurt, harm, danger, risk, embarrassment, looking less than, imposter syndrome, stereotype threat.
All right, Sylvester here. I know you're enjoying this amazing episode with Dr. Ian. Really quick right now, we want to share a little highlight if you want to work with Dr. Ian and take your leadership to the next level. Dr. Ian, who should reach out to you?
Who should reach out to me? That's a wonderful question. Let me just say this first. When people ask me about what do coaches do, I try to explain it in a couple different ways. And I try to explain it using visuals. So when you think about a Rubik's Cube, a coach helps you solve complex problems. When you think about your tires, perhaps in snowy weather, when your tires are spinning, coaches help you to stop spinning your wheels and make progress. When you think about scales and balance, coaches help you maintain a state of balance, a state of harmony, a state of well-being. When you think about a target or a goal, we help you achieve your goals. And then as you think about something like a microscope or like a microscope, we also help you see the finer details, and we help you see things in granular ways. And then I think the last thing is if you think about a window, we help you see things from different perspectives or out of different windows. And these kind of things that I talked about are not technical competencies. Indeed, they are adaptive strategies, adaptive skills, adaptive ways of being that we try to help people get to as we coach.
Absolutely. Those adaptive challenges are facing us all right now. Dr. Ian will have you and your team lead through that breakthrough. All right, now back to the episode.
all of those things. The brain is programmed to protect us from those. And what happens is when we encounter stress, we react in one of 9 different ways, or we could even react in 9 different ways. So I think it's important for every leader to understand how they show up in times of stress, because we think we always show up as the sheep, but sometimes we show up as the wolf and we don't really understand it. And so what this assessment does is it not only gives you the particular areas, but it gives you such a thorough description of where it started, how you justify it to yourself, how it comes out to other people. And it is so heavy and so powerful. And so it helps people make those adaptive changes, because it's not about technical skills. It's about being a pleaser. It's about being an avoider. It's about being a perfectionist. It's about being hypervigilant. It's about being a victim. All of these different ways. It's about feeling judged. All of these different ways impact the way we lead. And if you don't understand that, you think you're showing up in one way and you're showing up in a very different way.
And that's okay. Yeah, you just hit me with that one. Like, I need a minute to process everything you just said.
But it's a super powerful assessment. And I encourage every leader to do it. It will give you some ouches. It will give you some oops. It will make you be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why I act like that.
Right.
And to be honest, it's really one of the primary tools that I use to kick my coaching work off. Because what I want people to do is I want them to see their strengths and their superpowers. And strengths and superpowers are very different, because superpowers are those things that people compliment you on and you like, doesn't everybody do that? Oh, that's just me. That's just how I do it. And sometimes we don't see those. And so I help you get super clear about your strengths, your superpowers, your areas of enhancement, but then also your saboteurs, because the saboteurs tend to pop up at times and be like, hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
And let me give you one example of a saboteur.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Give me, like, without saying anyone's names, a leader in the education space who maybe you help them see themselves in that way and break through.
Yeah. So one is, so I talk about the pleaser and the controller.
Okay.
Let's talk about the controller. The controller is a leader who probably might be super highly effective, but is very clear about how they want things. And so instead of empowering others to and helping build others' capacity, they take on too much. So they're working 25 hours a day. They're doing things that are not necessarily in their lane. And then they start to have resistance with those people who are not showing up. Well, you haven't given them time to show up. You haven't supported them. You haven't given them accountability. Another one really is the hyperachiever. Those are the people like me who used to getting the best grades and all of those kinds of things. Those are the people who take 30 minutes to write a 3-paragraph email because it has to be perfect.
Perfection. Yeah.
Then you have the pleaser, who can never say no to anybody. So those are just a couple ways that leaders show up all of the time. It's very interesting, and it is absolutely mind-blowing for people when we have these discussions.
That's so important for our leaders. And you know what, you have me thinking, like, or that person who goes from the classroom to principal, to administrator, to, assistant soup or something at that level. Mm-hmm. When do you learn this stuff, right? It's like you're being promoted in advance because maybe, the way you're showing up at work, maybe your technical skills, but some of this stuff, what you're saying is like, it's like that higher level of how you're getting in the way of your own growth, of slowing yourself down, which ends up slowing your team down, which ends up slowing your school or your district or your state level down.
Yeah. It impacts your ability to make an impact. It really does. Yeah. It really does. And again, we talk about these things that take us from good to great, great to greater, greater to greatest.
Right.
If you're not very clear about not first recognizing, then confronting your saboteurs, then you're going to continue to get talked about in the group chat or in the teacher's lounge because you don't see how you're showing up. So
why you just take it there like that? Because that's the truth. That's exactly what's happening. Somebody's like, let me tell you what she just asked me to do.
Exactly. Or she asked me to do it and she didn't like the way I did it. So she got attitude and just said, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm a controller or I'm a perfectionist or I'm hypervigilant or I'm a hyperachiever.
Yeah. Yeah, facts, man. Wow, man, you coming in hot and strong today. At the end, I love it. I love it.
But see, this is what I want to say about that, man. What people don't understand is coaching is a technical profession. It's not just like a run of the mill thing.
Yes.
For one of my initial coaching certifications, 300 clock hours. And so these are not playthings. Like I am super committed to helping people build capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm curious with what you just saying that. Talk to me about the other side. Like when they get out of their own way, when they understand the saboteurs that they're dealing with, they understand if they're the pleaser and all, these different dynamics that you just brought up. Talk to me about some of the impact that's on the other side of that transformation.
I think the two words that sum it up, which are, pretty much synonyms, liberation and freedom. Okay. I mean, once you can be your true self, once you can reach your full potential, once you can live the life that you deserve to live, it's a level of freedom. It's a level of liberation. It's a minimizing of stress. It's probably that you don't have to call Costco as much and get your blood pressure pills or whatever it is. No, it's that you can actually go to the gym and do what you want to do. It's that you don't have to turn your friends down when they say, let's go to happy hour on a school night, so to speak. Yeah. So you can show up for your family and be full. It's so you can be at your kid's soccer game or basketball game and not be multitasking. Those kinds of things is liberating. And again, especially what I call this the PC era, post-COVID era.
Yes, sir.
The post-COVID era has been brutal to a lot of us. So this wellness, this being, this joy, like I tell people, we're not called human doings, right? We're called human beings. And so in my work, I don't focus just on what you do. I focus on, in African-American vernacular English, I focus on who you be. Because both are important.
Yes,
both
sir.
are important. You can't do if you're not being well.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I really do focus on that, but I also definitely focus on all of the strategic, tactical stuff as well.
Yeah.
As a coach.
But I find that like the higher you go, like as a leader, breakthroughs become more about you facing you understanding who you are as a person, how you lead, what you need, the best times of day to get the most important work done. You're understanding your leadership style, understanding how to work with different people and cultures. It's a lot of internal work that leads to those breakthroughs. I want to ask you something because we're releasing this on Black History Month, part of a series that we're doing, Black in CTE. And I was excited about you as you're already kicking it off, talking about leadership. But as it relates to our African-American leaders in education, I know that's something that's super important to you, developing that group. Tell me more about something I read, the thing you're doing with Black men in education convening, like a cohort you're supporting African-American males in leadership.
Absolutely. So for the last 3 years, I've had an opportunity to attend the largest convening of Black men educators in the country. And it's called the Black Men in Education Convening, and it's in Philly. And so for me, like I tell people all of the time now, I'm at the point in my career, I'm more of an unc than a nephew.
Okay.
And so you're an unc, you have, as you think about your uncles, you have a different level of accountability. You have a different role to play. And so my role now in the education space, specifically in St. Louis, is to play sort of an unc role and to also think, like I talk about in my book, who got next. And so my job is to cultivate those young and older Black men who are going to continue to flourish in our region and beyond. And so happy to be able to, with the support of the Opportunity Trust, I'm happy to be able to sponsor 10 Black men a year to attend this event. Powerful event.
Yes, sir.
Education heavy hitters. So these guys get a chance to meet people who they wrote about in their dissertations. They get a chance to shake their hands and meet them and talk to them in real life, kind of like education stars. They get a chance to convene with thousands of other Black and brown men and women in a very loving, joyful environment. And then they get a chance to learn some stuff because they're workshops and themes. And I was able to, this was the first year I was able to present. As a matter of fact, I presented on the Saboteurs. I talked about the Saboteurs. But yeah, so that's one of the things that I do just to try to continue to build capacity and to sharpen iron.
I like that. Now, you just brought up your book, King. Yep. The 4-part leadership framework for Black men.
Yep.
As it relates to that part, talk about that, the kings who have now and the kings who have next.
Yep.
What do we need to do for people who are listening? Like, what do we need to do to try to get more Black males in leadership positions in education?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think first you need to recognize the unique strengths and gifts that they bring to the table. Some of the things that can't necessarily be captured in a book. Some of the ways that we engage with youth, some of the ways that we hold youth accountable, some of the ways that we love on our youth is very unique to us. So I think there has to be a value in education and understanding that in those spaces, we may operate a little bit non-traditionally. We may do things a little differently. Our tone may be a little different. So I think that's one. I think the other is being very thoughtful about providing alternative pathways for Black and brown men to get in these spaces. Traditionally, they're either breadwinners or co-breadwinners. Right. And so some of the sacrifices that it requires to be in education misalign with their need to be a financial hold it down person.
Right.
And so we need to think about alternative pathways. And then once they get into these schools and institutions, they can't just be an educated police officer with a suit on. They just can't be an educated police officer with J's on or with Dunks on. You know what I mean? Because we are more than just relationship builders. Yes. We do that very well. Okay. But we academics, we scholars, we're instructional leaders. And I think there needs to be intentional time to build our capacity. One of the reasons that I wanted to be a chief academic officer or over curriculum and instruction, because in the traditional public school space, I'm not talking about the charter space, but in the traditional public school space, I'm damn near as much of a unicorn as a unicorn could possibly be.
Okay.
Because you don't have Black men leading the academic part of a school district. And so I wanted to be a counter narrative to show people something different. And we got them numbers.
Yes.
So we put up points. We didn't just talk, we put up points.
Talk to me about that. Let's stay right there in that pocket into your leadership at the University City School District as that chief academic officer in that role. Salute to Dr. Hardin Bartley, absolutely. Like phenomenal leader in her own right, as African-American woman, as superintendent. Talk to me about some of the points you put up, especially even from the CTE standpoint, because I know you all did some great work in that aspect as well.
Oh, yeah. So I think first, like you said, shout out to Dr. Hardin Bartley, because two things, there's so many things that I love about her, but I just want to highlight three.
Okay.
One is vision, humility, I'll say courage. I'll also say the ability to pull a team together, which is important, Leaders and winners want to work with winners.
Thanks.
And so when she came aboard in 2021, I was one of the kind of core team that came along with her. Right. Okay. And so I worked in the district for 5 years. Again, now I'm an edupreneur. But in terms of some of the work that first of all, ELA and mathematics, we have been able to have the highest growth in the state for a couple of years. We have been, in terms of our growth, we've kind of been setting the trend or the pace in St. Louis outside of a couple of schools. In terms of our MAP scores, doubling and tripling some very specific areas. In the CTE offerings that we've had, we've been able to create pathways that have led to accelerated growth in a number of kids who are either walking away with associate's degrees or industry recognized credentials.
Absolutely.
We also introduced NAF, which is a national academy that provides internships. So our kids have been able, and not only that, but even with St. Louis internship program. So our kids have been able to work in places like Worldwide Technology, MasterCard, all of those places. And so, that's just some of the work that we've done in U City. Oh, one of the things that we've done is we've partnered with this organization called Show Me the World Project. Yeah. You may know them.
Yes,
as a co-founder, you may know them. And so this year, we are able to take, is it 20 students?
20 students, yeah.
We're able to take 20 students to Costa Rica to experience the learning. This is what you call project-based learning coming to life, experiential learning to coming to life. One of the things that I love about the work that you're doing in this work and that we're partnering with you on is this is not about kids who are at a 4.0 necessarily. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Many kids have access. Another thing is the deep learning they're getting in biology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because not only are they getting the knowledge in the classroom, but you all also provide additional academic supports.
Yeah, 100%. And then when they travel to Costa Rica in March, their lives will be transformed even more. Like when you talk about bringing that science, that STEM to life, where they're seeing
absolutely
geothermic energy creation with wind farms and hiking volcanoes and exploring rainforests. I'm excited for that.
It's transformational.
As well as the educators. So thank you once. I'll say that. Thank you again for you and your leadership in helping us move that forward, as well as Dr. Harden and her visionary leadership as well.
Yeah. But you know what, man? Another thing about that is the major role that you play. And so kids are learning science, deep learning of science, but they're also learning entrepreneurship, which I think is a lifelong skill that just helped them so much. And so you're creating entrepreneurs right now. One day we're going to be walking into their places of business. We're going to be supporting them because of the intense work that you've done in terms of creating all of these young entrepreneurs. Yeah. And honestly, man, when you think about it, all of the students that you've just touched just through Show Me the World across the St. Louis region is absolutely incredible, man. That's a deep impact. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You just made me think of a follow-up question. But for people who are listening, talk to me about the importance of that spirit of collaboration and what you're saying when you think about great leaders working together, us with the Show Me the World project, but you and Dr. Harden, working together inside of that district, like to get things done and not removal of the egos. Yeah. And, it's my show. It's my show. Talk to me about the importance of us working together as leaders.
Yeah, I think I'll say a couple things. I actually did a workshop in Kansas City on this last week. J. Cole says pride is the devil. And this whole thing about ego, mine, see me, beat my chest is corrosive. And it is very much prevalent in education. I think it underlies insufficiencies that we see in ourselves and we project them on other people. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. The other thing in education, this is not an adult-centered business. This is about kids.
Yes, sir.
And so if you keep the main thing, then you don't have those kinds of egos because you know about the work. And one of the things that, even though I no longer officially work in University City, I'm still down with the U. Just like I helped to get this, was one of the parts to help this Show Me the World project going. So I don't have no ego.
Yes, sir.
It's not about me. It's about it is about me in terms of I want to get these numbers for these babies. Because even when you think about this Show Me the World project, when those kids come back and take the state test in biology, oh my God, they're going to blast that thing out of it's going to be incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if Desi thought they cheated when the test scores come back because they're going to do so well. Now, seriously.
No, I'm with you on it. It's something about bringing it to life. And that's for all our listeners, just thinking about opportunities to make education real. That helps to make it relevant and to make it stick, which in turns, like you said, gets those state test scores that, that the districts need and all of that stuff. So,
yeah. And, but one of the things that we want to emphasize, and one of the things we do emphasize in University City is, a teaching methodology called project-based learning, and it is just what it is. And so it is connecting authentic experiences to the academic content. And so Project Show Me the World project, this Costa Rica project, is a perfect exemplar of that. And that's what we're about, bringing kids to the real world and bringing the real world to them.
Man, you said that so well. I'm gonna hear, and can you share a little about like, as I was going through the book, the King framework, talk to me about the navigating north.
Yeah.
You've touched on it in some ways, but I just want to hear you talk about that component of the framework that you show people how to navigate.
Yeah. And I'll talk about it from a personal and then from a business perspective.
Please do.
I'll start from the business part first. So navigating north in the business, it really speaks to let's avoid mission creep. So if you have a set of goals, a set of standards, a value orientation that drives your business, navigating to the north means that you move in a direction that is directly aligned to your mission, to your values, to your small set of priorities and goals. So that's the business aspect. Navigate to the north, moving away. They show that graphic of all of the arrows going in the same direction. Or when the geese fly, how when they fly at such a strategic direction, then it actually gives them more efficiency.
Yes, sir.
And so it's that same concept. But navigate to the north in the personal world means be very clear about what you believe in. Understand your values, your beliefs, your passion, your reason for being here, and move in that direction. And that's really all it means. But in order to navigate to the north, that is your North Star, you actually got to know what you believe in first. And so many times we don't even understand, or we can't clearly articulate what our values are, or sometimes they can change depending on the environment that we're in.
That's true. Yeah, it is something to start with, that personal, like that reflection for yourself. What are your personal values? Or even as a school leader, what are the values? Let's make sure we're clear. Everyone on the team can articulate those values so that we can navigate our true north. Like you said, if we're a STEM school, then let's be the best STEM school, that we can be, and not allow for that mission creep and those things. Because something new and shiny, creeps up.
Yeah. I mean, if we care about instructional time in classrooms, something as simple as let's not have a million intercom interruptions during the day. If we say we want to preserve instructional time, if we say we believe in respecting and loving on our kids and humanizing our kids, then we're not going to yell at our babies.
Yeah.
We're not going to demean them. We're not going to call them little boy, little girl. We're not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it means live what you say you believe in.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I want to shift gears, man. Like, okay, so we're coming into a bit of a new political environment right now. No matter how people view it, it is a new environment. What are some challenges that you might see or that you're hearing, that we may face in education? Any suggestions on how we should maybe approach them?
Yeah, as a coach, as an executive coach, one of the first things that I ask people when we connect, and we always connect virtually, is how are you?
Yes, sir.
And it's not I'm okay. It's not one of those. It's an honest, genuine question. And so many of my coaching clients right now are super stressed about the potential impact of ICE and this immigration issue that we're facing. They're losing kids. Kids are scared. Families are scared. People are extremely stressed. People are concerned about specific initiatives they might have, whether it's culturally responsive teaching, whether it's the equity work. And so people are pretty much on eggshells as it relates to that. So it's a heightened level of stress. And so as an executive coach, I'm trying to help people all across the country make sense of this. And some places that I coach in have very different demographics. For example, I work with a principal who is 2 blocks away from the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn. His student population is primarily Latinx Muslim. So his stress level is up to, because the kids don't know what's going to happen. Is somebody going to come into school and take us if I leave, or are they going to take my mom? And so his level of stress is very different. So that's one piece. But then for me as a business owner, if these state and federal organizations are saying we're going to cut out diversity initiatives, we're going to cut out inclusivity initiatives or equity issues, that's probably 30-40% of the work that I do. And so my personal business is impacted as well. So it requires me to try to figure out how I can be nimble, how I can be agile and still thrive and flourish and be well in this current climate. So it does take a lot of bobbing and weaving right now and planning.
Yeah, that's well said, because I do know there are a lot of other, like you're saying, other African-American folks working in education or that are doing some of that work with education institutions that is directly and clearly falling under, say, a DEI bucket.
Absolutely.
That if it's state funded or federally funded, then whether they want to agree with it or not, they just may have to just flat out cut it or change the name of what the program is. I'm hearing a lot of that too from other like education providers, and I think one of the things I've been sharing with people is, you may keep the same ideology or thought process on what you're doing, but if you have to, sometimes business changes, the external environment changes. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we have to try to make the proper adjustments to keep those businesses going, because, that's, we're talking about families, mm-hmm. people, you need to provide for, I need to provide for, and that's very important.
You bring up a good point, man, because so one of the clients that I work with, she had that very issue. So her company had to decide if they were going to stand strong and not change anything at all, if they were going to eliminate certain words and phrases totally, or if they were going to try to define them differently or massage them differently and not lose the impact.
Yeah.
So people are dealing with this whether you talk about people's websites, their documents, their onboarding stuff, and some of their names, some of their values, their core values, their mission statements.
Yeah, I'm seeing people doing both. I'm seeing people double down, like, nope, this is what it is. That's what it is. And then I'm seeing people maybe changing some language. The word belonging seems to be a new word that is acceptable, so it's like what's working. But I want to go back to what you said too, man. I was talking to one of my friends in Memphis, and they were saying that because of the ICE stuff, attendance is down like 30% in some of these schools.
Attendance is impacting so many things, and not only is it impacting so many things, but when schools are judged based on their standardized test scores, based on their NAEP scores, you can't say, oh man, yeah, we had this ICE issue and 30% of our kids missed 15 days.
Yeah, there's no asterisk next to the score.
Not at all. Not at all. And so these are all of these challenges that school leaders and school systems face, which again, that's why the adaptive parts.
Yeah. Back to the beginning, what you said is everything. It's everything. That's
how do I make good decisions? How do I balance? How do I need a thought partner? So just so many things that we do as coaches help me strategically think through this thing. So many things we do as non-judgmental coaches that are very needed right now.
Yeah, that's why I really wanted to have you on, Dr. Ian. Like, I couldn't think of a better time to have you on at the beginning of the year, because expert and a thought leader as it relates to this adaptive change, especially in the education space for leaders who need that thought partnership to make these hard decisions that they are faced with. Just when we thought we were out of the pandemic, nope, here's another rapid changing environment that requires something different from our leaders.
Yeah. You know what, too? You mentioned something. And it's really one of the places that as educators, sometimes it's not really our strong suit, and that is understanding of business. And so for you as a business person, you can put this and say, yeah, systems change, external factors cause things to change. And so your ability to navigate may be a little bit different. Whereas I'm an educator, I know I get my check every 2 weeks. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Whatever I do, I'm getting paid, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And so now for that to be interrupted causes stress.
Yeah. You know, something that helps me, I constantly say this to myself, cannot stay loyal to old ways that are no longer serving you.
I love it.
You can't. And it's just because you did something, 5 years ago, it worked a certain way, or yep. The curriculum I always teach it this way, or yep. I always lead my school this way, or when things change, when you get new, different, better information, then you need to make those adjustments and be adaptable, like what you said, man. I'm in lockstep with you on the work you're doing, and I think I can't thank you enough for, like, I follow you on LinkedIn, and I'm seeing you showing up all, this organization, this school district, this state is working with you, so you're making the impact, and I know that's going to trickle down to the students, right? To making that impact, that transformation. So again, thank you on that. Last question. I ask this to everyone as it relates to career and tech education. So I'm curious what you say, maybe even from a leadership standpoint. What's your vision for the future of career and technical education?
My vision is that, this is one thing that I'm starting to realize. What I'm starting to realize is that I think the definition of smart is evolving. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I think that people who are going to come across as whatever smart means nowadays is their ability to manipulate technology, more specifically AI.
Yes, sir.
Artificial intelligence. Because when you think about how much it saves time, how much is a thought partner, how you can get so much production out of AI, I think that sometimes it's as simple as the quality of the prompt.
It is.
And my point is, I think that in terms of CTE and almost everything else, part of it is going to be directly connected to your ability to understand, manipulate, and use new technologies, including AI. I also am very excited about, this is an evolving belief, an evolving theory. What I'm starting to see in the education landscape, specifically with Black boys, is this period between like 18 and 22, 23, 24, 25, whether they are from economically challenged background, a middle class background, an affluent background, they are stumbling out of the blocks. And I see it as such a big trend. And so my wondering, and several of them are blowing $50,000, $40,000 trying to go directly to college. So I'm wondering if there's a CTE pathway that we just got to change the way we think about the value of CTE and going right to a profession. So I think my point is, should there be kind of like an intermediate step? For example, instead of going directly to college, should it be where, no, we're going to take a year off, we're going to take a year and a half off, we're going to take a year 12, and we're going to get you a different experience. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of playing with that, just kind of thinking about it. But I do think that everything is evolving. Like you said, we're not evolving. Mm-hmm. We're still saying no college for everyone, no this for everyone. College is a pathway, but there are so many other pathways, and and nothing has to be, and college doesn't have to be sequential, meaning that you can do something else, and then if college is for you, go later. That's very true, and I like how you said that, and especially if you're starting with the person's interest, their desires, their talents. College could be the best pathway, but there may be other pathways that may interest that person. They could start there first and then potentially college second, as is needed to the next step up in the career level. So I think that's good. And I've been hearing a lot of similar conversation, what you just said on the podcast with different guests. Talk to me more about what you mean when you say that readiness part. Yeah. I think we underemphasize that word. I don't think we focus on the readiness. And I think when we do think about readiness, we don't think about holistic readiness, 360-degree readiness. We might think about the academic piece, but as we know, especially in this new world, this social readiness is important. This quote unquote soft skill or durable skill readiness is important. So how do we make sure that kids are well-rounded and ready? Not just because they got a 3.5, but can they live without their cell phone for 2 hours? Can you ensure that you are on time? Even though substances might be legal, can you still not walk into a space smelling like a substance that you may lose a job for? And so I think that in terms of the readiness. We got to focus more on the readiness part of it.
I think somebody gonna pick that up and walk with it right there.
Yeah.
That's a college and career readiness. I'm focused and locked in on the readiness and how to elevate. That's good. I like that. Thank you. Man, you dropped so many gems on the pod today. I know listeners are going to want to connect with you, our leaders who need that coaching for themselves and for their leaders in their systems. How do they reach out to you, Dr. Ian?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think either two best methods. One is LinkedIn, Dr. Ian Buchanan. You can find me on LinkedIn. My email address is ian@neaeducationgroup.org. That's the name of my company, Nia Education Group. So ian@neaeducationgroup.org. And you can find me on all social media outlets.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this podcast, please don't be selfish. Share it with a friend or a colleague who needs to hear this, who's ready to take their leadership to the next level. Till the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.